Yo, what up everyone? Amir Rahim here on Rapping and Snacking, getting into another hot takes video where I'm basically going to go over some of y'all hot takes that y'all submitted to me on Instagram. Hit me up on there and TikTok at Rapping and Snacking, and hit the link in the description to check out the website to buy some stuff. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into one of these hot takes. First off, we're going to go into Amar Loves Hip Hop. Shout out to him, cool dude. And his hot take is Big Pun would be much higher on people's all-time lists if not for his untimely death. Now, when dealing with deceased artists, it's always very hard for me because clearly, you only get whatever they put out on their time during Earth, before it was cut short, right? And Big Pun is especially, was pretty young when he died. And it's just unfortunate, but at the same time, how do I weigh something like this? And you know what, I personally think that of some of the MCs that did pass away, I think Big Pun's Capital Punishment was really great. Awesome album. I think his features on other things are great. He has some work with Terror Squad, etc. And he had the Yeah Baby album, which, that one, it's very interesting because I feel like when you get to the Big L's and Notorious B.I.G., who also had a similar instance with their albums and their posthumous stuff, is I think that Big Pun's album, Yeah Baby, is the worst of those artists that I mentioned. And I feel like if Big Pun was on that trajectory to kind of go down that way, the Yeah Baby way, which don't get me wrong, there were some great songs on Yeah Baby, but there were also some pretty bad songs. I think Big Pun was also showing a lot of his humorous side on that album, which, although I do enjoy some of the funny stuff and I do definitely get some laughs in, that doesn't necessarily make for a great album, right? And I think you were starting to see that side of Pun, the funny side, which he had his moments also on other LPs and other tracks. But I feel like on Yeah Baby, if he were to kind of go down that road and not do the more serious and really, really, really witty, awesome flow type stuff that we saw on other tracks and albums, I feel like he would actually, instead of being higher like Amar is suggesting he'd be higher on lists, I think people would actually put him down on lists. That's my personal opinion. I mean, because certain people, obviously you can't guess what Big Pun would have done or what these other artists would have done, but I'm kind of guessing here, obviously no one will know, but I'm guessing that he actually probably would be on less lists if he stayed on that trajectory. That's just my personal opinion. RIP to Big Pun, he's awesome. But that's just what I think. Shout out to Amar. Next up, let's go ahead and get into this next one from Dabble SK13. I messed that one up, my bad, bro. This person says UGK slept on over the course of rap history. I mean, is that a hot take? I don't think that's a hot take. I mean, yeah, they're super slept on. I actually talk about them, I feel like, in a lot of videos because I really mess with UGK's music. Great duo. Yeah, I mean, they're slept on. I don't think that's a hot take. Rest in peace, Pimp C. We were just talking about, Big Pun, RIP, and RIP to Pimp C too. So Bun B's awesome, Pimp C's awesome. They also do a lot of their own production on some of their work, particularly Pimp C. So they're really, really, really great group, and I 100% agree. I don't really consider that a hot take. Next up, we're going to go to this person, Shake Appeal. Above the Law was better than NWA. Now, this is a hot take, and the reason why it's a hot take is because NWA is known as, in air quotes, the world's most dangerous group. That's what they call themselves. That's what other people have referred them to as. They're a group that did break to mainstream just because of how much they sold, right? Not saying they wanted to be mainstream or anything like that, but that's just kind of what happened, right? And they also ended up having their own blockbuster film. So they're definitely one of the most known groups in hip-hop. That's easy. No pun intended. But Above the Law, a lot of people don't know who they are. And it's a shame because they are incredible. And their discography is great. And obviously, they're on Ruthless. They moved labels too. And they were a big part of NWA as well that people may not know about. But are they better than NWA? I'm going to go ahead and say that Above the Law's discography is better than NWA's discography. I think they just have so much more music. If we're talking about strictly the group's catalogs, I think Above the Law's catalog is better. And I mean, it's kind of not fair because there's so much more music that Above the Law had, and even with NWA's second full-length album, not talking compilations or EPs, album, it didn't even have Ice Cube in it. Granted, that album was amazing, Brothers for Life. But the point is, Above the Law, I mean, you got Living Like Hustlers, you got Black Mafia Life, you have Vocally Pimpin', which is an EP, you got Uncle Sam's Curse, which is just like phenomenal. You get Time Will Reveal, and so on and so forth. It's hard to beat that catalog for really any group, and in WA with their limited catalog, yeah, I can buy that. I think Above the Law probably does have a better discography. If you just go like top 2 albums versus NWA's, 2 albums, Straight Outta Compton and Brothers for Life, then I think Above the Law would have a tougher time beating them out. But with the discographies that they have that I can evaluate on, Above the Law, I'd say, does have a better discography. What group do I prefer? If we're not talking from a discography perspective, but if I'm talking like Family Tree and I'm talking just like, just the artists that spawned from them, whatever, and the artist solo catalogs, I'm going NWA all day. But as far as discography, which I'm assuming this person's saying, I'm going Above the Law. Dope take. That's a hot take. I want to see what y'all think about that. Next up, we got Aaron Mendoza. This guy is saying Havoc and Styles P both said Puffy over Dr. Dre. I think that's a hot take. So to me, it sounds like Aaron Mendoza is saying this is a hot take from Havoc and Styles P, not necessarily from himself, but from those two artists. And yeah, I mean, I'd say that's a hot take because there are two different like types of producers. Obviously, they can both serve as exec producers, but as far as actually producing music and making beats and everything associated to that, that's Dr. Dre. Puffy doesn't do stuff like that like Dre does. And also, I mean, Styles P in particular is especially biased because he was in the Locks and still is in the Locks, and he's, made money with Puff and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, the thing is, I don't know, man. I think it's funny because there's no way I think anyone can say Diddy is better than Dre. I just can't see that happening from a producer perspective. I just can't see that ever happening, anyone saying that. If you're talking about maybe from an investment perspective, maybe. I mean, he has Ciroc, he has like other things going on, but Dre has beats. Like, maybe from that perspective, sure, but I mean, better than Dre. I mean, what does that even mean? I mean, I don't even know if what Aaron is saying is correct here. I didn't look that up to see if they do actually think he's better and in what capacity, but if we're just talking in general artistry terms, no. I mean, Dre's founded so many awesome artists, and Puff has also found some awesome artists too, but even if you put those artists up with the ones that Dre had an impact on, I'd say Dre's are more influential, impactful, and had better catalogs and careers than the ones Puff did. And that's my opinion, and I can actually think I can do a good debate on that one too if anyone wants me to elaborate that one further. But anyways, appreciate you, Aaron, for dropping that one in. Next up, we got 80 Uno here. Ooh, this one might piss some people off. This one, he is saying Q is better than K-Dot. So he's saying ScHoolboy Q is better than Kendrick Lamar. And what's funny is, it's a hard one for me to answer because I don't necessarily know if ScHoolboy Q is better than Kendrick Lamar, but I'll tell you this, I prefer ScHoolboy Q over Kendrick Lamar. I do. I think ScHoolboy Q is awesome. I think a lot of people, they get caught up in that like, oh, who are the best MCs today? People say like, oh, Kendrick, Cole, Drake, like those are the three that I always hear. And then you get other people saying other names. So those are usually the ones you hear. And then the thing that's funny is usually since Kendrick and ScHoolboy Q were from the same camp, the Top Dog Entertainment camp, usually they picked, no pun intended, they picked the top dog out of that camp. So they're rolling with Kendrick because why would they bring up Q if they're already repping someone from TDE? So I think that's why Q sometimes gets forgotten in that regard. And to be honest with you, I do think Good Kid, Mad City is the best album from Top Dog, but honestly, Blank Face, I listen to that more. I prefer that, but I just think Good Kid, Mad City's better. I think Blank Face is better than To Pimp a Butterfly, better than Damn. I think it's such a great album. Oxymoron is awesome. I actually really did enjoy Crash Talk too. I know some people didn't like it as much, but I think ScHoolboy Q is definitely more my style. I think both Kendrick and Q are clearly awesome, very influential and dope artists that are out today and have been out for over a decade. But the point is, ScHoolboy's kind of more my type, and they also do have like their own puns, their own styles. Kendrick, I think he is a little bit more experimental, but the thing is, Q, if you listen to his albums, you go from like, if you just go, for example, from Oxymoron to Blank Face to Crash Talk, they all have very different sounds. Very different sounds. And same thing you can say with Kendrick, with his albums too, like To Pimp a Butterfly, with Damn, with Good Kid, Mad City, and so on and so forth. You can see that they switch up their styles on like all their albums. So it's like very innovative artists. They don't like to stick to just one script. They switch it up. Dope artists. Q is better than K-Dot though. 81, my guy. I'm gonna go ahead and say I agree with that, but it's tough. I prefer Q over K Dot. I want to see what y'all think about that one for sure. Okay, next up, let's see who we got here. We got Easy's Wings. This guy is saying life after death is better than death certificate. Facts. Okay, so he's not even just saying it's better. He's saying it's a fact. That he put a 100 on that one. He's basically saying there's no way that life after death is not better than death certificate. This guy, he must know me because he's calling out Death Certificate. He knows that's my favorite album of all time. He wants to get a rise out of me. It's okay, bro. No, Life After Death is not better than Death Certificate. Ready to Die is not better than Death Certificate. Neither of them are better. Death Certificate, in my opinion, is the best album of all time. I've stated it many times, whether through Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I've stated it a ton of times. I even have like my Death Certificate collection video on here, which I'll go ahead and link up, do some self-promo there. No. Life After Death, here's the thing. It's already so hard for a double album to be better than an album that has less tracks on it, like a single disc. It's so much harder if we're talking just CD format, right? Like, let's say it was released on one disc. It's so much harder for a two-discer to be better than a one-discer just on the simple fact that there's going to be some fluff. It just always happens. No matter the MC, no matter how good they are, no matter the features, no matter the producers, it just happens, man. It's just going to happen. And that's the case with Life After Death. It's got some great songs, some of the best of Biggie's catalog, but there's also some throwaways. And like, I mean, let's just look at it right here. I mean, I just brought it out. Like, Fuck You Tonight. Come on, I'm not like the biggest fan of that joint. Like, Miss You, another. Like, these are some tracks that I'm just not like the biggest fan of. Even like The World Is Filled with Too Short, one of my favorites. That one, I mean, I'd rather hear a Too Short solo joint over that. Like, I'm just being real. I think Biggie could have done better with that one. I mean, there's just more and more songs. And then you go up with Death Certificate, which is crazy because Death Certificate, I was just talking about Life After Death, which is a double discer, but Death Certificate's no slouch either. I mean, it has 20 songs on it, 20 tracks on it. It's a long album. It's like, around 60 minutes-ish, but 20 tracks is a lot of tracks. There's some skits on here, but there, in my opinion, are no throwaways. It's incredible. But then if you put up like the story tracks on Life After Death and you put them up with the story tracks on Death Certificate, for example, it doesn't hold a candle. And you have some very great writing on here. Like, I Got a Story to Tell is great. It's humorous, the beat's great, etc. But when you put that up with a song like My Summer Vacation, both of which, I mean, I Got a Story to Tell directly happened to the Notorious B.I.G. My Summer Vacation didn't necessarily directly happen to Ice Cube, but it was happening all across the United States. So that is just a wild story, and that's super true. And the samples throughout Death Certificate, the way that all the producers were working together on Death Certificate, crafting the album, putting the skits together within the songs, on the separate songs, etc., and tracks, it's very hard to beat a creative process like that. And I don't think that was as present on Life After Death. Granted, like I said, very good album. But even the diss songs, like let's go like Long Kiss Goodnight or Kick in the Door, and you put that up against No Vaseline, the best diss song in rap history, that's not coming close. You get some aggressive tracks too. I mean, what's beating The Wrong Brother to Fuck With? on Death Certificate. Like, it's just too hard. Then you get like the songs about sex, diseases, racial tension, songs about looking yourself in the mirror with us, talking about growing up when you were a kid, doing dumb shit, all these other things. Life After Death, don't get me wrong, it's awesome, but you put something against the greatest of all time, it's going to lose every time. And that's just, I mean, hey man, Life After Death is dope. I mean, you got some very innovative songs on here. You got the banger, like 10 Crack Commandments on here. You got some dope production, but look at all the features on here too compared to Ice Cube's features. I mean, granted, it matters the album output rather than like the resources, you know, like what you're working with. But even then, he got all this help and couldn't beat the Cube and his posse. I don't know. That's just me. I'm sure some people will agree, and I'm sure some people will disagree. But my guy, Easy's Wings, I always appreciate people bringing, you know, their opinion on it. And I think I'm overdue for a video on talking about like Death Certificate's greatness and other things like that, because I can really talk about it for a very long time. It's my favorite. But it's just a masterpiece. Let's continue with this video, man. I can keep going. So we got this next person, Dro Dree, saying Big L's beats on his first album are on par with 36 Chambers beats. Now this is very interesting. You know what? I really love the instrumentals on Big L's Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous. That's his first album. And I really love the instrumentals on 36 Chambers by Wu-Tang. And I'm going to roll with Wu-Tang. I think Wu-Tangs are better. And by the way, he is dropping a hot take there for sure, because I feel like not a lot of people talk about... I mean, I think they do talk about the album, but they don't really talk about the beats. They usually talk about Big L and his punchlines, etc. So Wu-Tang, I think, is better. I like that style of production very slightly more. I think they fall in like a very similar category when you're talking about like New York street rap, early to mid-90s, just gritty punchlines, aggressive, just everything like that. And even the instrumentals like a little more gritty. There's some like more elegant stuff, but for the most part it's more street, right? So I think they're similar in that type of category, but also like the kung fu stuff, the influence from that, the way RZA was really doing pretty much the whole thing on his own. I mean, obviously there were some tracks that were co-produced with some members like Method Man and ODB, but Lifestyles had like Buck Wild, Showbiz, Lord Finesse. I think Craig Boogie was on there. So it was, you know, a few more producers. So when you usually bring in more producers producing like individual tracks like that, it's a little harder usually to make it as cohesive and as good with just one producer. Obviously, that producer has to be really good. And we're talking about RZA. This is pretty much prime RZA we're talking right here. So obviously, he's going to deliver. So I personally would go the Wu-Tang route over here, but the Big L, I think the beats on Lifestyles and the Poor and Dangerous are awesome, and I think they do rival 36 Chambers, but I don't think it's better. I do like the take, though. I wouldn't be mad at someone who said the Big L one is better. Like, I'm not going to go ahead and say you're crazy, or I wouldn't like flinch or, you know, do nothing crazy like that, but I'm going to go ahead and disagree. Anyways, those are some cool hot takes. I appreciate y'all as always. We keep it peaceful. It's all just our opinions. So let me know what y'all think of any of these hot takes. Hit me up on Instagram and TikTok at Rappin' and Snackin'. Buy a shirt, click an ad, do all that good stuff. I appreciate y'all as always, and I will talk to y'all next time. I'm out of here.